I have a lot of steaming to do today, and I thought it was the perfect chance to do another chatty work with me. Today's topic is the opposite of my last video, which is 10 reasons why reselling is amazing. And I have my timer, so I'm gonna work for 45 minutes, and then the last 15 minutes of the video, I'll talk about non-reselling stuff, and let's just get this going. Lots to talk about. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, let's go. First off, why do I count down? I count down. I should have started my steamer before I did this. I count down so that I can match the timer I put on the screen to the timer I have on my computer. And I've tried doing this timer, which I use this one when I'm just using timers and not filming myself. But when I use the computer timer, it's more precise. This one's a little less precise. Anyways, so I count down for myself in editing world. But all right, first off, what is a chatty work with me? This is just a chance for me to work and talk about something that I think I might be able to talk about for 45 minutes, which I try to pick a topic and stick to that. This is not to necessarily change people's minds or anything like that. We can all have difference of opinions on certain things, but it is hopefully to inspire some thought. And I don't talk about a lot of reselling in like a haul or any of that kind of stuff. So this is really a chance for me to actually get some work done and talk about some subjects that people ask me about. I get a lot of questions in the comments section and on Instagram. And so that is the point of these videos. No harm, no shade to anyone who has a difference of opinion. But one of the things that was funny about the last video, so I knew I wanted to talk about the pros and cons of reselling. And instead of doing a pros and cons video, I thought I'll do 10 reasons why it's great and 10 reasons why it's not great. And again, I was inspired by a van lifer. I'll link last video down below in case you haven't seen it, but I was inspired by a van lifer who talked about the negatives of van life. And it was, I think, good to hear. I think it's good to hear the pros and cons. And pretty much everything in my life has pros and cons. So I'm not offended when people say that there are downsides to reselling. There definitely were people that were offended. And maybe I should have said in that video that my plan was to do this video, but I really want people to understand that while there are a lot of pros with reselling, which we'll get to in a second, there are definitely some negatives that vary, that are different for all of us. So a negative for me might be a positive for someone else and vice versa. So it's just supposed to inspire some thought. And fortunately, the majority of people understood the point of the video, which is there are pros and cons, and the cons are important to think about. But there were definitely some people who were offended, suggested maybe I should stop reselling. And it's kind of like when I talk poorly about or negatively about Poshmark, or I'm critical of Poshmark. I don't like a lot of what Poshmark does. I don't like the platform in a lot of ways, but I continue to sell on it because it does bring in some money. I did put in a lot of work on that platform in, almost 4 years. And I'm hopeful that they will make some changes. Reselling, it is a struggle for me at times, but I keep going because for my life situation, this is a great option for me. And I will explain the whys for me. Again, you can come up with your own list and they can be similar or completely different, but it's just a chatty work with me. This is not, the book of law. This is just my own personal opinions. So with that, the first reason, I think most people would agree this is one of the best things about reselling and a lot of self-employed jobs is that you can kind of have a flexible schedule. So you could be self-employed and maybe you do, by the way, this is all stuff I don't want to list. It's either free or it's old inventory that I pulled to relist. I'm working on stuff from over here, which is kind of my security pile. In case things ever get shut down again, or in case I'm too busy to thrift. And it's just getting a little too big. So I'm trying to get through some of it, and I don't want to because it's not my favorite stuff to list. But what better time than just to buckle down and do it? Anyways, flexible schedule. There are definitely some self-employed jobs out there where you are on deadlines. You don't have quite the same flexibility. But I think with reselling, if you want to wake up tomorrow and you want to list 50 items, you can. If you want to list one, you can. If you want to take the day off, you can. There's just a lot of flexibility. Now, my life isn't as flexible as if I were doing this 100% of my week because sorry, I've got to get down on the cushion to get to the bottom of this. My life isn't as flexible as if I just did reselling, because I do have commitments on YouTube. I do have meetings with real estate and, you know, meeting up with potential buyers, clients, that type of stuff. So my life is not as flexible as it could be if I just did reselling. But I love the fact that with reselling, I can kind of wake up and choose what I want to do, if anything. Now, with a flexible schedule, it doesn't mean that you don't work. So if I decide that I want to go to 9 a.m. yoga classes, typically I will do a little work before I go to yoga, and then I typically work a little bit later that day to account for the couple hours that I wasn't working in the morning. So, you know, flexibility doesn't mean you just don't work, at least not for me. But it does mean that if someone calls me up and says, hey, last minute, I'm driving through your area, do you want to meet for lunch? I most of the time can kind of drop everything and go meet them, which is, I think, pretty great. All right, so I think that's an obvious one. I think that's the majority of people like having the flexible schedule. And for me, especially with family, especially the last couple months, having that flexible schedule was very nice for me. Let's see, number 2. This is my, is it my favorite part of reselling? If I had to pick one, I think this might be my favorite. And it's because it doesn't matter what kind of reseller you are, if you're hobby, if you're part-time, if you're full-time, if you're semi-mid-time, kind of like me. It doesn't matter what kind of reseller you are. Most of us like the treasure hunt. Just that feeling, that high that you get from when you walk in somewhere, either a thrift store or a yard sale, or even in a family member's house, or, you know, something, and you see something and you look it up and you realize, oh my gosh, this is going to resell for a lot. There's nothing better, in my opinion, than that feeling. It's just this high that you just keep chasing, and you know there's going to be another thrift high at some point down the road. It's just a matter of when. And it doesn't necessarily, like, sometimes those thrift highs aren't necessarily a lot of money, but maybe it's an item that I just know sells very quickly for me for a decent amount, and I rarely find it. So it doesn't necessarily have to be all high-end designer or anything like that. It just has to be that feeling of, I'm so excited I found this, and I'm so excited to list it. Unlike this pile that I'm working on right now. A lot of this stuff, again, it's not high-end, so, but you know, I'm happy to list and sell all price points, and these days it's been hard for me to thrift as much. So yeah, I'm just trying to get organized, keep listing, and all of that fun jazz. So I should stop complaining. And that's the other thing. Videos where I criticize anything, whether it's criticize reselling or criticize a platform like Poshmark, it's not, yes, it is talking about a negative aspect of something, but for me, it's really important to hear that. Like, for me, if I want to get into something, I want to hear some of the negatives, not to hear someone complain, but rather to know that I'm not alone. And I think that's a really important thing. Like, if you keep doing reselling, you're probably going to have some negative feelings at points, at times. And I think sometimes when someone talks about them on YouTube or Instagram, it sometimes can make you feel less alone. Maybe that's just me, but all right. So number 2 was the treasure hunt. There's just nothing better. Yeah, we all know that feeling. That's why we do this, I think. All right. So number 3 is one that it kind of goes against what I said in my last video, but it's because it depends on your situation and your employment history. And that is a pro for some people, myself included in some jobs, is that you have no boss or no coworkers. Now, is that a stain? I think that's a stain. Well, we'll see if that's what, I think it's polyester, so I think I can stain treat that. So, I've had some great bosses and I've had some terrible bosses. And I know that a lot of people don't want someone hovering over their shoulders, watching their every move. I don't think there's any person out there that's like, yes, I want a micromanager to manage me. That's just not really a dream for most of us. I do think there are great bosses. And maybe I'm biased because I was a boss for a long time and I have had employees say positive things, and I've also had employees that we didn't gel. I think that's part of it, is finding relationships, whether professional or otherwise, that just work, and then they are easier. So I have had some good bosses, but I've definitely had some terrible bosses where I just couldn't wait to get out of the room with them. Couldn't wait to leave that job. And I think with reselling, it is nice. It is nice that you get to call the shots. And for me, it's more coworkers. Like, I don't know about you, but I've worked in open office spaces. A lot of Silicon Valley, they like this open concept. So no one has offices. You just have, I had standing desks all in this great room. You have couches. It's kind of dark. It's supposed to be very welcoming and comfortable, and you should be easily able to walk over to a teammate's desk and, brainstorm. But the downside of that is you're also in a room with a whole bunch of coworkers who are coughing and sneezing, and, it's just eating, loud rappers, smelly fish, all that kind of stuff. So I think just the fact that with reselling, you don't necessarily have the people aspect. And I'm talking, in this case, the negative people aspect, the bad bosses, the bad coworkers. And again, there are good coworkers and good bosses, but when you resell, more than likely, the majority of us, it's just us. We're just on our own. I can play whatever music I want. I can listen to, an audiobook. I can talk on the phone while doing some of my work, and I don't have to worry about people around me. So that is a pro for me. I am an introvert. I thrive in, solitude, which, I do like being around people, and I am around people, but it's nice that for work purposes, I get to kind of just get my stuff done when I need to get it done. So that is, I think, number 3. Is that 3? Yeah. All right, number 4. Let's see. I want to make sure I'm not going too fast or too slow, because that is the challenge with these chatty work with me's. I don't really edit much of these, and I think the unedited aspect is nice because it's raw and it's real. So if I slip up and say something, it's kind of going to be there, but that's okay. All right, so number 4, you get to shop sometimes for a living. Now, I don't think this needs to be confused. And some people can. So this is not talking about me, but there are some resellers out there. I see a lot of them at the bins. They go to the bins 7 days a week, it looks like. The same people. And all they do all day is shop. Or they go to thrift stores all day, every day. And maybe they have someone at home who does the processing of stuff. Maybe they do flea markets and they just go 1 day a week and they just throw stuff out on a table, or I don't know. There's different kinds of resellers. But for me, I get to shop sometimes for a living. So that's good and bad, depending on the day. There are days where I'm like, I would really just prefer to stay at home, but I need product. But there is this, it kind of goes hand in hand with the treasure hunt thing. You get to go out and you get to search for treasure. And while you're not getting necessarily paid for that exact moment, you know that if you find good stuff, you will get paid for that when it sells. If that makes sense. So a lot of people, I think, really like the shopping aspect. It's almost like, I almost always have my earbuds in. I'm listening to something. I'm kind of distracted from the world. And, there are definitely just things you kind of want to get away from, whether it's the news, whether it's, social media. Oh my gosh, just getting off the phone and just being out in public, especially after COVID. It's just nice. And I know that someone commented on my last video saying that one of the downsides was the loneliness factor of reselling. And while for some people that can definitely be an issue, for me, if I'm having a day where I want to be around people, I just make that a thrifting day. Now, I only go thrifting about 1 day a week. So it's definitely, for me, I think I thrift on the low end of resellers, and that's just due to proximity of thrift stores for me. But I think that, it's just, not many people can say that. I guess you could be a personal shopper. I guess you could work for Hollywood studios and you have to go find wardrobe pieces. I've seen those people out. That's a cool job. Again, the majority of days that we go out thrifting, it's just kind of fun, And I think that's the envious part of, is that even the right word? That's the part that I think a lot of people envy is, oh my gosh, you get to go and like shop for a living. And it's like, yes and no. I mean, that is a component of the job, but for me, it's not the largest part of my job. The majority of my days are spent at home doing work like this. And so it's a treat. It's a treat to go out and source for me, especially because I get to usually leave my area. Not that I dislike my area, but I get to go to LA, and I do like aspects of the city that I miss. So yeah. All right. It is toasty up here. It is really nice outside, but when you live in an A-frame and you have these really high ceilings, all the heat rises and steam. So really I'm just giving myself a facial, which is fine. I like the dewy look, but yeah, that's where we're at right now. Let's see. So one of the things I really like about reselling, I almost never buy anything full price anymore. In fact, I can't tell you the last time I bought anything. Clothing, home stuff. I don't remember the last time I bought something regular price, unless it was a gift for someone. But for me, myself, what's really nice is that I spend a lot less on things for pretty much anything. And now I did thrift and go to antique stores before I became a reseller. But, to basically make your whole wardrobe thrifted, it's kind of like you have to go thrifting quite a bit because, one thrift store isn't going to have things in your size that you want, that are your style. So the fact that we get to go out and thrift and go to yard sales and go to all these places to find pre-owned stuff means that more than likely we are spending less money on that stuff because we're buying it more often pre-owned. Like there's a number of things I'm just keeping an eye out for, some chairs for my entryway. I'm just keeping an eye out for the perfect set of chairs. Yoga outfits, like leggings, because they get worn out. I'm always keeping an eye out for those in my size, pre-owned. But I can't imagine like going and buying aloe yoga leggings full price because I know the day is going to come when I'm going to find some. Or if I can't find it on my own at thrift stores, I can go on eBay and Poshmark and buy it pre-owned and save a lot of money from buying it new. So I do that occasionally as well. But anyways, I think it's just it's a perk. My coffee maker that I use pretty much every day, I got that at the bins on a pallet of appliances, and it's a Breville. It's a great brand. It's like a $300 coffee maker, and I probably paid, I sold some of the other stuff in that pallet. So, it was in a sense free because I made my money back selling the other stuff. So yeah, I think that's a huge advantage for me. I feel like, also, I know I've mentioned this before. I love this rack because there's a lot of racks are kind of cute. This is more functional, and I love the fact that it can hang a lot, obviously, but it has this shelf up here and a shelf down there, and I use that a lot. I kind of cleared it off recently, but I like being able to put stuff up there. So if you're in the market for a rack, this one rolls, and it has those two shelves that I personally think are really helpful to have. Like I have bags down here, like thrift bags that I reuse, especially when I need to take shoes down for a haul or something like that. Anyways, all right. So here's something that I think is a pro if you look at it as a pro. What I mean by that is, so this is number 5. Is this number 5 or 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is number 6. So you kind of get what you put into reselling. And while there are some moments of luck or maybe proximity to things, so maybe you live in a high fashion area and you have access to a lot of designer stuff, so maybe you find it more, that's just proximity to where you live. And you're probably also paying a higher rent to live in those areas. Like San Francisco, I would have had access to a lot of great thrift stores, but I was also paying for a lot for a very small space. But there is some luck. Maybe you just happen to walk into that thrift store at the right time, right when they roll out a rack of everything amazing, and you just happen to be that one that's standing there. So there is a little bit of luck. But I also just think if you buckle down and you go, okay, today I'm going to list 20 items. Today I'm trying to list 25, so I'll just go with that. And then no, I don't always do that. I just do it when I'm trying to set a lofty goal to get stuff listed. And I think in the last couple months, I haven't been as consistent with listings. So these days I'm trying to set a lot of timers to keep myself focused and productive and get back into listing more consistently. And I'm not beating myself up over that. I had, a lot of a death in the family. So, but where am I at? You get what you put in. So I don't think it's endless money. I don't. I mean, unless you find that painting that's going to sell for $1 million and you can find one of those every year, it's not endless money. But if you work hard and you buckle down and you can stay productive, you're probably going to see money reflected.
Motion detected at the front.
That's the dog. She's outside and she's setting off my security camera out there. But I think that if you even heard that, that was my Amazon Alexa. Is that what she's called? Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to call you. Cancel.
Don't worry about it.
Oh, okay. She said, don't worry about it. So if you, let's say this is an example that's kind of stuck in my head since I heard someone say it at eBay Open. If you want to make $100,000 this year, then you should focus on listing $100,000 worth of stuff this year. Basically, if you're only listing $30,000 worth of product in a year, then how are you going to make more than that? Now, technically, maybe you've done it for 10 years. You have a huge storage shed of products from years and years of listing. Who knows? But what I've always thought of is if I want to make more money, I need to list more. I need to be more productive. And with that usually equals higher sales. So I don't think, personally, I did not get into this to become a millionaire. I mean, I know there are a few people out there that may have teams, maybe on their own, may have resources to things and make that happen. But I'm just happy that I can pay my bills, work hard, and I can see the fruits of my labor. So when I've been listing consistently for a month, usually I'm having a decent sales month. Not always, there are slower times of the year, but it's definitely nice to know that you get what you put into it. You get back what you put into it, hopefully with money. So, and I think that, I've had jobs where if you hit a lot of metrics, you just keep earning more bonuses and so there are definitely other jobs out there, like real estate, which is my little side hustle that I'm working on. If you make a lot of cold calls and you reach out to a lot of people, if I do a whole bunch of real estate content and it's searchable and people find me, the more I put into it, the more I can get out of it, hopefully as well. But so it's not just exclusive to reselling, but it is one of those jobs that if you work hard, more than likely it will reflect in sales, like higher sales. So, and I think a lot of people thrive on that. Some people had a minimum wage job and they're coming from that and they're coming into reselling and they're like, oh my gosh, like if I work hard, like I was working for my previous job where I just made this flat minimum wage, like minimum wage here is 15 or something an hour, you're making $15 an hour and that's your max. Maybe you don't have any commission or sales or anything like that status, and you work really, really, really hard and the person next to you works half as hard, but they get paid the same amount. It can be really frustrating. In this, it's kind of on you. You work hard, you reap the rewards, if that makes sense. All right, number seven. So one of my favorite things about reselling is the constant learning. So it does not take long to learn about Talbot's, that it's a moderately priced brand. I've bought stuff full price there. Lots of stuff there sells for over $100. It's by no means cheap, but it's not the strongest resale value with a lot of things. I'm only saying that because I'm holding a Talbot's dress, but I think there's always new brands. There's always new areas of reselling that if you want to keep learning and keep growing, expanding your reselling knowledge, it's like endless because there's always things that are coming on the market that are getting hot again. It's just endless opportunity for learning. And personally, that is definitely one of the things I love most because I get bored. I don't get bored with this job. I mean, there are mundane tasks like a steam bath where I get a facial for free. But there are a lot of times where I'm looking stuff up and researching, and I try not to spend too much time on that, but it is really fun. It's the curiosity and it's just kind of this element that I think some jobs, again, it depends on what you come from, can just be the same thing day in and day out. And, you know, you don't really get challenged. And I think with this, if you want to be challenged, you can challenge yourself by constantly picking up new things and just researching and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's definitely a pro for me. And I feel like with all this steam, it's not even that hot out. It just, again, gets really hot up here. I had yoga this morning, and so I like to do this kind of stuff up here in the morning when it's a little cooler, but I had yoga and then I had to run an errand. So here we are in the middle of the afternoon up here, but that's fine. All right, so number 7, 8, 9, 10, 8, number 8, I think. I should have numbered these on my sheet, but of course, here we are. So it kind of goes hand in hand with what I was just saying. You can pivot when you're bored. So you can pivot to other niches. So for example, if you are a reseller and you start on Poshmark and you start selling stuff out of your own closet, and then you start watching people like me on YouTube, and you start learning brands and you start going to thrift stores, and you pick up clothing because that's what you're learning, that's what you're watching. But let's say you realize you really like video games or something, and you realize, oh, okay, I mean, I know a little bit about video games. I could learn more about video games. In a sense, you could kind of pivot your business if you want. Now, there's different ways I think people do that. I mean, some people reach out to me. I never respond. I'm never interested in buying people's inventory out for a number of reasons. But, you know, some people will just reach out and they'll just try and have someone buy them out. Maybe they're just done with clothing, or maybe they're done with reselling altogether. But the nice thing about reselling is there are people that have different niches that you can get into. So I've seen some really interesting, I mean, you can, I mean, it can go up to like, there are resellers that just do cars, like vintage cars. There are resellers that do baseball cards. Like I said, video games, electronics, all sorts of stuff. Pans, like pots and pans. It's kind of endless as far as, you know, what direction you can go. So being able to pivot, it's kind of like if you're at a regular job. Let's say you're at an entry-level job working at a grocery store, I don't know, and you get put in the register area, like you're the person that, yeah. And let's say you're looking over at the person who does the backroom stocking, and you're thinking, oh, that's my dream. But maybe they don't need you back there, and it's kind of up to them depending on where you go. Like maybe you can request certain things, but they need you over here and you're good over here, but you're like, I really want to go over there. With reselling, if you want to change, you can change. It's not like a job where you're kind of waiting for that permission or waiting for an opening or something like that. Now with a change usually comes time. So maybe it's not a extreme overnight change. Maybe you start picking up and incorporating some things until you kind of slowly transition that way. But I love picking up hard goods. I think the reason why I don't pick them up as much is because, well, partly because this channel, because I have a base of people who follow me for clothing, and I have tried to put hard goods on this channel, and it doesn't really seem to get that much interest. And I know that not every reseller likes hard goods. So, you know, I feel like I'm kind of in the clothing world because that's what I built here on YouTube. But if I didn't have YouTube, I probably would have switched to hard goods a long time ago. Not to say I would never pick up clothing. I have, I think, a decent amount of knowledge with clothing brands now, but I think I don't know. I get bored. So I think that I probably would have switched by now. I'll also, you know, my mom, she has an antique booth, so she's looking at hard goods. There's just different places I think that are good for sourcing hard goods. And so I just don't have the time, to be honest now, but maybe someday down the road, I will switch to hard goods, and I can do that. And I think that's really an advantage that we can pivot as resellers. All right. Let's see, is that the wind? I'm hearing something outside. All right, this is a big one for me. And maybe it's not for people, well, I think there's something that everyone probably saves money on. So this is number 9. There's a lot of money that I save, for the most part, by working at home. And for example, when I had career jobs and I had a dog, Luna, I would pay for daycare. She would go to daycare every day. Daycare depends on the daycare, but for me, it's usually about, I think my daycare in LA is $29 a day. And no, she loves it. And I love taking her there when I go there to thrift. So she goes, you know, a couple times, 2 or 3 times a month when I go to that area of LA. But when I was working a full-time job, she was going every single day. And so already there, what is that? Saving $100 a week just on daycare versus me only taking her one day as a reseller. And I would imagine there's daycare for kids that it's a similar sentiment. You know, if you are the caregiver in the family of anyone, saving money on daycare or something of that effect can add up real quick, and it's a huge savings. Other things that I save money on is food. Now, partly I don't live near anything. We have 2, in my area where I live, we have 2 small restaurants, like mom and pop, you know, casual sit-down restaurants. But we don't have any fast food. I've got to drive 30 minutes to get to any fast food. And so for me, I eat and I cook at home. Now, I do splurge on some Green Chef boxes, a couple of those each month. And those are just more or less just to kind of incorporate more vegetables and just try new recipes, which this isn't sponsored by them, but they sponsor a lot of my videos. And I was paying for them before they sponsored anything, so for months. So I really do like them, and that's kind of a treat. But outside of that, I pretty much eat 95% of my meals at home cooked meals. Now, there are times where it's like a convenience thing. Like the other day I was at Costco with my mom, one of my favorite places. I don't have a Costco membership. It's also an hour away, but my mom and I like to go and try the samples because we buy half the things that we sample because it's so good. But I bought some pot stickers. That's not necessarily the most home cooked meal, but it's kind of a convenience thing to have at times when I don't feel like making a full meal or I don't have any leftovers to warm up. So it's not like I'm eating perfectly all the time, but it does save me money to buy pot stickers in a big bag at Costco versus at a Chinese restaurant on a lunch special. It's probably half the price, if not more. So I save money on food and eating out. Now, I do eat out when I go to LA, and that's kind of a treat. You know, in and out. I've got a couple restaurants that I like to stop and sit and mingle, and I'll have a bite to eat. So I mean, it's not like I eat everything at home, but I definitely cut down. My old jobs, I used to eat out almost every day because it was almost like you'd go with coworkers, and it was almost a working lunch in a lot of times. So yeah, I think I save a lot of money there. Gas. So again, this depends on each individual person. Maybe you lived 2 miles, maybe you walked to work. For me, I was driving an hour and a half each way to my previous job before I left to become a reseller. And an hour and a half each way, and that's like moving, that's not sitting in traffic. I want to say I was spending about $300 a week on gas. No, that doesn't sound right. $150 a week on gas. Does that sound right? Maybe more. Anyways, obviously gas prices go up and down as well. But I definitely, at this moment, because I only really leave my house to go to the post office a couple days a week, and one of those days to go to the post office, it's usually when I'm going to LA to source. So I don't drive as much. Now, when I drive, I have to drive a distance because I live in the middle of nowhere, but that was my choice of where I live, not the reselling component. So those are just a few things that I personally save money on. And then number 10 is, I think it's the joyful part of this job that I haven't said in a long time. I said it a lot in the beginning, and I felt it a lot more in the beginning. But then when I reflected, when I was making this list, I reflected and I was thinking, this is still a really big part of why I love reselling, and that is being a part of the community. Now, you don't have to have a YouTube channel to be a part of some community with reselling. Maybe it's that you're on Instagram and you have someone that you message back and forth and you guys share ideas and share great sales. It doesn't have to be this large, social media space that you have to build. You can find community at the thrift stores, at the bins. I absolutely love the bins community. And are we doing okay? By the way, I said at one point that it was, what did I say? That it was filtered water? Yes, I meant distilled water. Why don't I use distilled water? I'm 30 minutes from the grocery store and I never remember to get any distilled water when I'm there. I also do grocery pickup, so I should just add it there. I always forget. It's just not a part of my routine. And if it was a quick jog over to the store to pick up some distilled water, I'd probably use it. But by the time I realize I have to fill this, I just use regular water. But I do need to what is the word? The thing gets a little clogged when you use regular water. So I need to use some vinegar and clean it out. But thank you to the people who commented and said it was distilled, not filtered. Yes, if you use a Jiffy steamer, they recommend distilled water so it doesn't get clogged. What is it? It's like the crystallizing. Anyways, so I think that the community, I mean, some people don't like the bins culture. And I would say the bins is a hard one because I almost feel like the more you go, the more you become a part of the community. The first few times or 10 times or 20 times, you probably will feel overwhelmed and you'll probably see other people and you'll be like I always think of like the group of the t-shirt guys. And I don't know, my mom and I started going to the bin, this one location of the bins in LA. There are quite a few that I go to, but this one in particular had this group of t-shirt guys. And my mom and I would go in there, and this is before I had a YouTube channel, or I had a small one probably at some point when I was going there. And we would go there probably once a week, that exact location. And these guys were always there. We would always park our carts near them. And every once in a while, they would just keep an eye out for things. And I don't know if they were like, they're not threatening, but we grew on them. And still to this day, it's like a friendly smile or hello. Or there would be a time that like my mom would find a t-shirt and just like hand it to one of you guys want this? Or they would do the same for me. They would see like, okay, she's picking up this kind of stuff. They'd find something. Do you want this? I don't know. There's a sense of community at the bins that maybe not every location, but at the locations I go to, I enjoy the bins community. Thrift stores. You can go into the same thrift store probably every day and start seeing a regular group of people that do the same rotation. And you can start chatting with them. So this kind of goes back to the loneliness. Someone commented that this could be a lonely job. And while I think there are lonely components, you can also find that community. I mean, I talked to, shout out to Lori Tata, Hope, Rax to Riches. And I'm talking... Should I say all their YouTube names as opposed to their real names? Lori Tata, Lori's Boston Found, Hope, Rax to Riches, and Laura Von V, who more is on the fashion side than the reselling channel, but many of you guys might follow her because she's got amazing fashion. I talk to them almost every day. Amber, I talk to almost every day. Shout out to my girl Amber. She's one of my longest lasting reseller friends, and I honestly can't imagine my life not having them in it. And you know, I think that community means different things to different people. For me, I feel like I'm a part of something, and that's kind of cool. That I think is definitely a special component. Now, I will say there are parts of the community that can be somewhat toxic or deceptive. Like, I mean, sometimes I'm tempted to do a video on the types of resellers I refuse to watch or support, because unfortunately there are a lot of people that kind of have this get rich quick mentality, and they falsify kind of their image to make it look like they're doing better than what they are. And it can be very hard on you resellers. Okay, you need to go to your happy place. You need to redo this little thing. I really need to run vinegar through here. It would probably take me an hour to run vinegar through here, and then this wouldn't happen. But this just goes to show I'm very imperfect. So I think that, you know, there are definitely elements of the community that I could do without. I do not like any of the drama. It's heartbreaking at times to see from the outside how bad it can be. But I just ignore that. I just unfollow people who bring that drama in, or I just can't. But I do follow people who are sharing the positives. And it's not that they can't say that they had a bad week or something like that, but they're not trying to bring other people down. And there's a lot of those out there. I mean, I've had people on this channel a long time ago. I don't really do collabs anymore, partly because I'm overwhelmed, but, you know, I've done collabs with people that I respect and admire. And also I've made the mistake of being friends with some that, you know, weren't the best options, but you live and you learn. And I think finding your community, you're part of the community in reselling, can just take a little bit of time and effort. And and just recognizing who the good ones are. And there are some really great resellers out there. I think we're really lucky that we have quite a few good ones. So, all right. And on that note, community. So there's this thing called Buy Me a Coffee. And a few months ago, someone asked me in a comment, why don't you have a Buy Me a Coffee link? So I finally signed up for it. I don't get the emails. I don't know why, if it's supposed to email me. Did I have that turned off? Anyways, I logged in recently and I noticed that a few people had bought me coffees, and I just wanted to give them a shout out because it surprised me. It caught me off guard. If I could label it Buy the Dog Treats, that's more like what it is. It's Luna. She likes these little chicken jerky things, and I swear I bribe her so much with those, but not excessively. I follow the instructions on the package. But anyways, so really this is just Buy Luna Treats, not Buy Me a Coffee. I almost never drink coffee out, but I wanted to shout out. So Kim, I won't say last names on here because I don't know what people, privacy, but Kim bought 3 coffees. I was very caught off guard, like, wait, are coffees different prices? I don't really know how it works. Anyways, Kim, thank you so much for the 3 coffees. There was someone that had a username. There wasn't a full name, but it was B Jones was the start of it. Not the YouTube person. It was, I'm guessing, someone different. Bought me 3 coffees as well, and I just wanted to say thank you. And then Lizette has a YouTube channel, and she's very, very active on YouTube Lives, on Instagram Lives. She's just a huge supporter of the community. Talking about community, Lizette embodies that. Anyway, she bought me a couple coffees, so thank you, Lizette. And then there were 3 people that bought me a coffee: Dawn, Nancy, and Eric. If you guys are watching, I really appreciate it. Or rather, Luna really appreciates it. She got some more chicken treats recently, so thank you. It surprised me, and the biggest support that you guys can do is just watch these videos. That's support enough, but those also are nice. So I wanted to say thank you very much. And one of the questions I got before we jump into, we've got 3 minutes and 20 seconds left of the work part. I swear, I don't mind steaming. And talking and steaming is one of the easiest things I can do. So that's why I thought this was a good day to do this. But steaming on a warm day is not my favorite. Again, free sauna. I guess I shouldn't complain. But someone asked me on Instagram recently, what is this whole timer thing? So I thought I would spend a few minutes explaining that and explaining the concept of these Chatty Work With Me videos. So there is a guy, Study MD, that I work side by side with him in a weird way. Now he's studying to be a doctor. He has a YouTube channel. He gets like millions of views. Different realm of YouTube than what I have. But he has this really nice ambiance. He does like a 1 hour or 2 hours. Sometimes he does 3 hour study with me sessions. And that is kind of what inspired me to do these. Now, my first one that I did of these was similar to his. It wasn't talking. It was just so that you could look over and see that I'm working right next to you. I would have some calm music. Well, you guys gave me feedback after that one and were like, yeah, I clicked off. Like there was nothing to listen to. So you guys like the chattiness. But anyways, one of the things he uses and introduced me to is the Pomodoro Method, which is, I think the traditional Pomodoro Method is 25 minutes work. You work for 25 minutes. So you can get a timer. You can use the timer on your phone, which is filming right now. You can use a timer on your computer, and you can set it for 25 minutes and try to just focus on whatever. So pick a task. So I'm going to steam. You set a timer for 25 minutes. You steam. You don't do anything else. You don't. Now I'm sure that there's distractions that happen. The dog needs to go out. A kid is crying. Spouse needs something, whatever the distraction is. A bird hits the window. That happens for me here, unfortunately. So, there are distractions. But for the most part, you set a timer and you kind of focus of like, I'm not going to look at my Instagram. I'm not going to go to my kitchen and do something else. I'm not going to go change laundry. I'm just going to do this for 25 minutes. And the concept is that you will be more productive because you've just established, you can set one timer a day even. If that just helps you with one task that you don't like doing, it's just, it's a productivity hack. Now it works for some people, it may not work for you. It's the best productivity hack that I have discovered. Planners don't help, to-do lists don't help, but the timer method works for me. So today is probably going to be like a 4-timer day, meaning I'm going to set that timer for 45 minutes. I choose to do longer sessions because I don't know, 25 minutes just seems so short with a lot of what we do. I don't mind photographing for 45 minutes. I don't mind steaming for 45 minutes, listing for 45 minutes. I usually don't do timers for listing. Usually there's just certain tasks like steaming, photographing, inventory, that kind of stuff that I set timers for because it keeps me focused or helps me stay focused. So anyways, for people who were asking about the timer, it's Pomodoro. I'll link something below if you want to read more about it. But on that note, perfect timing. So I'm going to stop. I'm going to go outside where it's a little bit cooler and there's a breeze, and I'll update you on some non-reselling stuff, and it'll be a nice break for me. So let's go take a break. Right? You like the chicken jerky? I know. Did you want to say hi to your friends? Huh? All right. I bribed Luna with some chicken jerky, right? So that you'll sit right here and say hi to your friends because you actually would rather be outside. So I have to bribe you. All right. So it is break time, but just the chance for me to fill you in on non-reselling stuff. I do think that hopefully the combination of the last 2 videos can give more of a full picture. If you haven't seen the other video, it is linked below. And reselling can be great for some people and it can not be great for some people. And I think sometimes it's trial and error. It works great for me, even with some of the negatives or the downsides. But it's, I think, important to see all sides or hear all sides. So on that note, so what is going on with life? This last week has been somewhat stressful for me because one of my 2 worst months in reselling is coming up, June and July. Historically, those are 2 of my slower months as far as sales. And what are you doing, dog? Are you hoping that I'm going to give you something? I know. Like this? I know. That's it. That's all I have for you. And some people, like my sister, hate the sound of people chewing. So, right? So you're being extra fun. Someone asked in one of my videos, I think on my car camping channel, if she was a Carolina dog. And I was like, what? And I looked it up, and she's actually very similar looking to a Carolina dog. She is a rescue mutt. She is like 10 different breeds. Her dominant ones are Pit Bull, Lab, German Shepherd, and Husky. Those are the 4 top breeds of her. But she also has other ones. So you're just is it a Heinz 57? Something. I'm terrible with expressions. So I've been using an app recently called Mint. It's a common budgeting app. And I am trying to be better this moving forward about paying quarterly taxes. I've never done that. And so I've been trying to set aside some money for finishing my fence. And so I'm just trying to keep track. And I did do things on a spreadsheet before, but this is all connected to the banks, and it shows my investments for retirement and stuff like that. Anyways, but the hard thing about budgeting is going into a slower sales time for me historically. Now, every year can be different. In the last 2 years with COVID isn't the most consistent history because it's just been a weird few years. So who knows? Maybe these 2 months will be my best months ever. But I think going into it, it's, what's the expression? Plan, hope for the best, expect the worst. Basically, I'm trying to prepare for 2 slow months, June and July. And as far as sales. And so I'm trying to figure out like, what can I cut back on and still save some money and still put money towards taxes and towards retirement and all of this stuff. But with budgeting the last few months, it has also created, I don't know, just more self-awareness of like how I spend money on groceries. I don't eat out as much, but I spend money on groceries because I do cook at home and I want variety. And so it's just been I don't want to say like stressful week, but it's been an eye-opening week of trying to plan for the next couple months and prepare for the worst, hope for the best, prepare for the worst, hope, whatever. Anyways, so budgeting has been something I've been working on, and but there's always things like there's just all these costs. Boo, where are you going? You have to come this way because you're tangled. I know, you can go outside. Or you can, oh, you're going to sit right here? Okay, well, you're kind of in the shot. Anyways, like I paid my car registration this month. I just had a flat tire. My tire pressure on one of my tires was low, like half the PSI than my other tires. So I had to call AAA yesterday, and my AAA roadside assistance is renewing this month. And there's just, the good thing is the tire, it's just a nail and it's on the flat part, so it can be patched. So I'm going to go get that patched tomorrow. But it is, there's just things that come up. Yeah. And budgeting, I think, is really great for me right now, but it's also making me very aware, and that creates a little bit of anxiety and stress. This is just hard with not having, there are certain, like, I think my sales are pretty consistent overall, and there's better months and, you know, slightly lower months. And I have a fairly consistent paycheck or payout from YouTube ad revenue. I have some sponsored content that I kind of know is coming in advance. So there is some consistency, but anyways, it's just created a little bit of stress. And on top of that, I would really love in my first year of real estate to sell a house. And I have a couple of really great buyers who are pre-approved and ready to go. And there's just no homes that they can find that are in their price range and are what they're looking for. And it's low inventory. And so I'm sitting here going like, I have these buyers, they're ready to buy a house, and we just can't find them a house. So it's been just a weird week, a weird feeling vibe week. But I do get to start planting in my garden. So I have been doing, putting in the bottom of the raised beds. I had some branches because of the wind outside, which it's pretty windy right now. I have branches that fall, and I'll just kind of create a pile. And so this year I'm cutting those up, and I'm using branches at the bottom of my raised beds. And I'm using some leaves, and I'm using some natural dirt. And then the top 10 to 12 inches is going to be a good topsoil from a local nursery. And so hopefully next weekend, I'll be able to start planting, at least in one of the raised beds. I have 3 of them, and I've been trying to make time for that. We also have our fire clearance that I'm almost done with fire clearance. The only side that I don't do of my property is the cliff side, just because it's a steep drop. It's about 1,700 elevation to the bottom of my cliff. And so I would die if I fell. I do walk on that side occasionally, and there are deer trails, like the deer create trails on that side. So yeah, but for weed whacking on that side, it's a little sketchy. So I just pay someone every year just to do the cliff side. But everything else, which is a little over an acre of flat land, and then I've got, it's probably about 1.25 usable land, which I maintain with weeds. And that's the drivable garden tractor and then the weed whacker. And then the cliff side, he goes basically somewhat down. He doesn't go all on my property because it's a steep drop, but he goes at least a little bit of distance from the house. So fire clearance is June 1st, our deadline, which means the fire department drives around to all the lots around here to make sure that we are meeting the requirements. And it still doesn't mean that you're done at that point. You may still need to continue dealing with weeds after that. It just depends on our rainfall for this time of year, but at least meeting that deadline, you won't get fined. And it's also a safety thing. Like the fire clearance isn't a problem because it's just to provide some safety if a fire comes through. But anyway, so the garden, I've been trying to work on that, but also trying to work on weeds, and it's a lot right now. Yeah, so, and once I kind of get the garden going and the weed deadline is done, I do want to take a camping trip because it's been a couple months, and I just think it will be a nice break, just to get away for a few days. I don't know where I want to go. I really had a lot of ambitious plans to go places this spring, but that kind of changed. And so I don't know where I want to go, but I want to go somewhere with the dog and maybe a friend, and that'll obviously be on my second channel. I'll show that. But I still need to edit those videos. I do have 2 vlogs that I can put up, but time. I just don't have enough time. Right, dog? And I'm patting you. You just want to go play. What else? I got a fence quote. So 3/4 of my fence has been done. right before I became a full-time reseller. And I had every intention to finish the fourth side, the last side, which is the longest side. Except the quote I got for that side was $3,500. And this is good materials. And yeah, but my fence guy came out a month ago to give me a new quote because 3 years ago, wood and hog wire and all that stuff were a different price than now. So I just wanted to know what it would be like today. And he gave me another quote and it was $5,500. So the product stuff is, it's expensive right now. So the fence is not going to be done right now. And it's kind of a bummer because I was really hoping to get Luna off this long leash someday. But right now I just asked if I could maybe check in with him in a few months and see if the prices have gone down. But we'll see. So the fence is on hold, but someday it will be done. Maybe when I sell my first house or a second house. My first house, all the commission for that is just going to go to pay my taxes next year. And so hopefully I sell a couple of houses this year and maybe one will go to finish the fence. Fingers crossed. Real estate. So I have these 2 recent real estate videos that have done fairly well. Okay, so out of my last 3 videos, 2 of them have done fairly well. One of them got picked up by I don't know if it was a Reddit thread where someone just posted my video and said, go spam this girl. But it was top 7 reasons of why you should move to Tehachapi. Now keep in mind, this is a real estate channel. There's not a lot of information on Tehachapi, and that's one of the reasons I have that channel, is to provide some information who might be interested in the area and want to learn a little bit about it. So I'll do some home tours. These aren't homes that I have listed. These are just realtors and homeowners who are allowing me to film in there as just to show examples of homes in this area and what you can get for that type of money. Now, Tehachapi in California is it's not cheap. It's affordable for California standards. Now, this home, my home if I were to sell it today, I could probably get about $350,000. 2-bedroom, 1-bath, A-frame cabin with a couple acres of land. That is a bargain here. But if I took this exact property and put it in another part of the country, it might be $100,000 in value. I follow a lot of really quirky cabin Instagram accounts, and I see some of the prices, and I'm like, you can find some really great deals out there. But for California standards, Tehachapi is relatively affordable. Now it's rural. This is a rural area. All of Tehachapi, the whole greater area is like 35,000 people. In the area I live in is, I want to say the recent census was 3,000. That's the community I live in. And I'm about 25 to 30 minutes from town. So it's different. It's different. When people think of California, they think of LA, they think of San Francisco, but there are a lot of rural areas like this in California as well. So anyways, one of my videos, top 7 reasons of why you might want to move to Tehachapi, got picked up on some like Reddit thread. And I just got all these comments from these people who were just anti-California. And I'm not even going to say all the crazy comments because it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter. There are states that I don't particularly care for, but I'm not going to go to someone's video and say that's a terrible place. When in fact, this is actually this where I live is a lot more similar to a lot of the country in the middle parts than it is to even LA or San Francisco. So it was interesting to get an influx of views and a whole bunch of comments from people who were just not positive. But I got through that. And then my next video that I did on that channel was this house for $350,000. And it's clean, move-in ready. It had some great views of the southern part of the Sierra Nevadas, which Tehachapi is just at the very southern tip of that Sierra Nevada mountain range. And so this house had views facing north and it was just incredible. Anyways, so that video is almost at 5,000 views. Keep in mind, my real estate channel, I don't even have 700 subscribers there. I am not doing that channel to have a lot of subscribers. I'm doing that channel so when people search for Tehachapi, they might be able to find me and they might be interested in a realtor. So anyways, that video kind of took off. I got quite a few calls from that, but it's just been wild over there. So I still haven't sold any houses, but I think it will happen. It's just a matter of when more houses are listed, because there's just not that many available. That's the other thing. People say like, oh, everyone's leaving California. No, Because if everyone was leaving, we would have more houses available. We don't have any availability. And I know this is across the country right now. It's just a really interesting market. But lots of people are still moving here. Lots of people are staying here. And I want it to just be a little more balanced. So maybe I can help some buyers get into some houses. But we will see. So anyways, that's my personal update. The dog is happy. We're going to go play outside. Right, Boo? And I need to go get more work done today. So I hope you enjoyed this chatty work with me. I really appreciate all of your comments and feedback on these, and I'll keep making them as long as you guys keep watching them. So I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye. What are you doing? Did you get any gophers today? I saw you get one gopher. Right? We got one gopher today? I know.